Welcome, horror fam. Did that sound enough like Mike, Nico?
No.
No. Okay.
You went too deep with it.
Too deep? Oh, well,
Yeah.
close enough. Like we'll roll with it. Hey,
Okay.
so yeah, that was weird. Mike's not here today, guys. So it's just me and oh, I'm sorry, as he says, as always, our producer Nico.
Hey, howdy, hey.
Yeah. So it's the Duff and Nico show today. Unfortunately, Mike cannot make it. This is the first time that we've been Mikeless on this show. So yeah. Actually, we've been Mikeless, or like good Mikeless in our early days, I guess. But that's a different kind of Mike. But yeah, a little weird without him here. Very weird for me to say welcome horror fam. But we'll be back. Just this one absence. That's all. Just couldn't make it today. That's it.
Yeah. We wish him the best. Hopefully, he'll be back on the next episode. As he recovers. So we just, I really hope to see him. But I'm excited still to talk about this upcoming episode, though.
Oh yeah, for sure. First, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at HHN365. In fact, by the time you're listening to this, we also have a YouTube channel, HHN365. We're going to be posting some content from opening weekend this week, and we are going to be posting continuously throughout not only HHN season, but the year. So please consider giving us a nice subscribe there, ring the bell, whatever they say. I don't know. I just kind of like making stuff, so do what you please.
You'll get it now.
I don't know. We'll see. And then also, we do have a voicemail. We do love receiving your voicemails as well. That's 407-906-3405. We won't answer, just a voicemail line, and we'll maybe even play it with us on the show and talk about it, or at the very least, just throw it on. But we really do appreciate when you call and leave voicemails.
Yeah, absolutely.
On today's show, of course, we're going to be discussing our experiences and opinions that we gathered from HHN 30's opening weekend. It's finally here. It's finally happened at this point, and it was a hell of a weekend, Nico.
Oh yeah, I'm still sore and very, very tired from this weekend that we had. Very fun weekend, might I add, but very tiring in a good way. We missed doing this 1 year, so none of our bodies were ready for this.
Oh no. It's one thing when you do it once a year, but when you wait every other year, no, my thighs weren't ready for this.
No, not at all.
But we're recovering. And we're sitting down for this, so let's get into it. We don't really have too much of a full structure. We just kind of want to discuss really the event, what we did, what we thought, and honestly, we thought it'd be fun to just kind of go right into it and rank houses and compare them to our hype lists. And I guess we'll rank scare zones as well. Why not?
Yeah, why not?
Before we get to it, I do just want to state that, of course, this is very early. These rankings are very likely to change. And that this year is a very strong year, and I don't think there was a bad house. There wasn't a bad scare zone. So just keep that in mind. It's just kind of which one was better than the other to us at this point.
Yeah, I would agree that there's not a bad house. Maybe not agree with there's not a bad scare zone, but we'll get into that.
Yeah, I guess we'll get there. We'll get there. All right, so we should start off. Our experience was we were staying on property. We were going all in, taking it late, walking or boating back to Aventura. And, we went in. We enjoyed the weekend. Met a lot of friends, had a lot of drinks. Didn't eat too much food. I wish I ate more, but that's all right.
Yeah, we were moving way too fast. And, the first night it was way too wet to eat food, opening night. And we'll have two different experiences from our opening night perspectives, so.
Yeah, so let's just kind of start there. Our actual experience. So we were lucky enough to be invited out for media for HHN 30. Unfortunately, I was the only one able to go to media. Nico was out doing Stay and Scream. So like you said, our experience quite a bit different. Nico, why don't you go with what you did first? Because that's, I think, the typical. And while I had a lot of fun with what I was doing, probably the more fun experience. Well, without the experience.
Yeah. It was definitely an interesting experience for it to be my second Stay and Scream that I ever did. My first one at Duff Gardens. It started off being extremely crowded and hot. And then a cloud came in and everyone was like, And then the rain came in. Everyone was like, ah. So me and the group I was with, we hid under the little shop there at Duff Gardens. They didn't close it down yet because they were still definitely selling umbrellas from that stand. So that was a bit of an interesting experience. So from there, just due to the heavy downpour, and I guess this is what's probably going to happen throughout the year, if you're at the Duff Gardens Stain Scream, after the park is cleared out, they will start moving you out of Duff Gardens into the King and Kodo's queue to kind of, make you fill in a little bit single file, try to funnel down, this wide group of people into there. And then from there, they take you into at least the first night. This changed our second night, but the first night, they would take you you could either go into Wicked Growth, Realm of the Pumpkin Lord, or into Puppet Theater Captive Audience.
And I do think it's interesting that for Stay and Scream at Duff Gardens, or Springfield, I guess you could say this year, is that there's separate, you enter through like where Marathon and Mayhem Arch is, and there's a separate house line and a separate
that is one very
line.
interesting thing that they did this year. So you enter the Central Park area. You don't enter. Where did you enter last time? For Duff Gardens?
It was typically closer to like Duff Gardens, like near like the food trucks, close to that area.
Yeah. So the cool thing is, in Universal, this actually hats off to Universal operations here.
I think in 29 it actually might have been at like the Marathon and Mayhem entrance too. So that part's the same, the entrance area. But the different lines thing is the big part. But go.
Yeah, they did have that. So if you took the lower tier, so if you've ever been to Central Park, if you've never been there, you'll know that there's separate tiers that are in there so people can watch the Lagoon shows. If you went up to the upper tier, that was actually Stay and Scream for Hill House and Beetlejuice. So if you really wanted to get Hill House or Beetlejuice out of the way, which that might be one of the ones because over the weekend there was some of the more popular ones, then you would stay up on the upper tier. If you wanted to go to Realm of the Pumpkin Lord or Puppet Theater, you would take to the lower one, and then they would funnel you into Duff Gardens eventually after they did a little bit of park clearing out of there. Mm-hmm. So, I think that's pretty cool that they kind of like did, kill two birds with one stone, because around that time, not a lot of people are hanging out in the Central Park area. So it's a really good place to kind of like corral folks and then let them spread off after that. So I thought that was a positive experience. Stay and Scream is definitely very, very, very busy this year. The secret's out, and also pretty much anybody who was here this weekend are like the really big fans. So they definitely wanted to get their Stay and Scream in. And Wicked Growth has had hype from almost the entire community since the beginning. So Duff Gardens was very busy, but I wouldn't say too overly crowded. I was still able to find a table. I was still able to kind of like move around and find shade without having to get all up in somebody's space.
So what everyone kind of predicted beforehand seems to have come true, that there was a shift in which Stay and Scream zone is going to have the higher crowds. And that's because you have Beetlejuice, Hill House, Wicked Growth is highly hyped. Puppet Theater has some good hype. Scary, obviously, for its lore and nostalgia involved. It just kind of got that lineup for the bigger draws, which is usually the other case where it's Finnegan's. So it seems like maybe I actually don't know much about what happened at Finnegan's. Neither of us did it. But from the little bit I've heard, it does sound like Springfield had a little bit more of a packed feel to it than Finnegan's did this year. So it seems like that part did come true. And then before we move on from that, I did kind of want to reiterate that, like, if you like grabbing drinks at Stay and Scream, the house line that brings you into like the Hill House Beetlejuice area is not for you, because you're just stuck in those stanchions, nowhere to grab a drink.
Yeah, correct. They would just funnel you into kind of like the kids zone area afterwards and keep you kind of like separated. Then they would move you over a little bit as more people started coming in and doing that.
I believe at that point they might have had the drink cart open, but that's after you've already been kind of hanging out there a while. So just keep that in mind. If you do, bring a drink with you so you have it in hand. You're good to go if you do feel like you want to hit that area of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So where did you start? What happened?
So we started. Um, as it was pouring rain, we actually hid under the Quickie Mart awning a little bit as they started moving people into King and Kodos because they were routing people through that queue, but not through the coverage section of that queue. So we kind of hung out underneath Quickie Mart till the crowds died down a little bit. And we then went right into Wicked Growth is the first one that we did that evening, our group.
Mm-hmm.
And shall I go into Wicked Growth or that, or do we want to?
Yeah, we could talk about it a little bit now. Let's
Hold
go
on
for
to it. Okay, so waited about just because of the rain. I think there were a little bit more delays because there were some issues with flooding with both of the tent houses. More on that a little bit later. So we waited probably about 20 minutes, but it was pouring rain, and I think they were having some issues like getting open on time for that. So we waited about 20 minutes to get into Wicked Growth from actually getting in line for it. Like when we entered the queue by Men in Black.
Yeah.
Well worth the wait. Well worth stay and scream.
Wow.
Yeah, well worth getting drenched to the bone for that. Realm of the Pumpkin Lord is so good. And I'm going to switch off calling it Wicked Growth and Pumpkin Lord. I actually just call it Pumpkin.
Yeah,
and
Nico, typically people are like, what house? Like, what's a standout house? He'll be like, Pumpkin.
Pumpkin's
like,
the house.
Everyone knows what he means, but it's like, oh, okay. Yeah, Pumpkin. Got it.
Well, I mean, it is. It's covered in pumpkins. It's covered in jack-o'-lanterns as you walk in. It's such a fun little facade that you go through, and the little tunnel that takes you into Mr. Carver's pumpkin patch.
Yeah, no, and now that I'm thinking about it, let's hold off on the details of the houses for a bit because of something we did the next day. And then after we talk about that, then we can fully discuss everything we appreciated about the houses. So yeah, pretty much from there, you were stuck in the rain for a few hours, right?
Yeah, we were stuck there for a few hours. After we were done with Wicked Growth, we then just got out and went into line for Puppet Theater. Puppet Theater's line was moving at a pretty decent pace until we were kind of just stopped for a while, and the rain just kept coming and coming down, and there were giant puddles along the curbs in the little road area that kind of leads up to the front of Puppet Theater.
Mm-hmm.
And they told us, somebody came out and was like, hey, sorry about that. The houses, the exit, it has 1.5 feet of water, and we can't get people to leave the house at the moment. So we're trying our best to resolve that right now. So there were some major drainage issues with that. But also, this was a really, really heavy storm. This wasn't the normal, afternoon Florida storm where it kind of pours for like 2 to 3 minutes and then it's gone. No, it was a consistent rain. And it was a heavy, heavy rain.
Opening night tradition, baby.
Yeah. So we actually had to leave Puppet Theater for that. We went over to there. We were just like really exhausted just from all that. So we went over to Diagon Alley so we could get dry and be under covering. And we got hot butter beer. They're serving hot butter beer again. I'm proud to say. So if you do get rained on, that's a tip. Go and get you some hot butter beer.
Hey, I mean, it does keep you warm.
Yeah. So after that, fortunately, as we walked out, we were going to walk back and try to do Puppet Theater again. But we actually saw that Scary had just reopened because Scary was on a weather delay because it too was also flooded. So we got in line for Scary, and we did Scary. That we did waited. The line I think said 15 minutes, and that was probably the most accurate wait we had all day, which was 15 minutes. It was pretty much all of the non-covered queue area is where we went into. And then after that, we went into Puppet. Did Puppet. We definitely saw where some of the issues were walking into it. and at the exit, they had it pretty much like all the standing water pretty much out, but you could definitely see like where they were having issues with stuff like that. So after Puppet, we went down and we did Hill House. After that, we kind of just continued like kind of down the street to try to hit all the stuff. We had already done the three, all of us in our group already did the 3 HHN lighthouses, so we just skipped Beetlejuice, but we ended up doing Hill House. That was a bit of an annoying wait. That was probably the longest wait we had all night. Was
not
there?
too shocking, I guess.
Yeah, and it pretty much has consistently long waits throughout the night. So yeah, we did that, and then we went through. It was still really raining when we went through there. So the scare zone. Oh crap! What's the name of that scare? The Terraquintus scare zone.
Gorwood Forest.
Gorwood Forest. Sorry, that is like the one I can never remember the name of. I can remember the other ones. I cannot remember Gorwood Forest. So we went to Gorwood Forest. They had all the lighting and the fog on, but none of the characters out because it was so darn wet. They came out later when we were kind of like just walking through the event. But yeah, so we went through there, and then we also went through Lights, Camera, Action, which was the same thing. No characters, just because it was raining. We looped into Legendary Truth and did a great run in there at the Shrek Theater. After Legendary Truth, I'm trying to remember that night because it got a little foggy just because of like all the rain kind of moved some things around. After that, we looped back. It stopped raining at that time, so we went back through Haction, Lights, Camera, Haction. Had a great time there. Really cool there. Saw Eddie. One of the people in my group said that Eddie looked a little more attractive than how he is usually portrayed. So I'm like, oh, okay.
Looking like a snack?
Yeah, he was looking like a snack. Maybe not quite a full meal, but definitely a snack. We went through Gorwood Forest, saw the lovely Terra Queen going through there. We got sandwiches from the Hill House Sandwich Shop, which I don't think that's the actual name of it, but it's the food booth near Hill House that serves the sandwiches.
I don't think they have names, so that's good enough.
Okay. So we had a really good selection there. I think everyone in our party got something different. I actually got the vegan option because that actually looked the most appealing to me, and I'm not vegan or vegetarian, something like that. And I really liked it. That is something I would definitely order again. If you would not, I would not believe you if you told me it wasn't vegan.
Yeah, next day I got the Reuben as well, and I thought it was good. Not as good as you did. I felt it was a little too hard on. Not too. It didn't have enough Thousand Island or really any kind of topping to it.
Okay, because then you must have gone because I had a lot of Thousand Island dressing and
I did not.
Yeah, and sauerkraut on mine.
And no, I barely tasted sauerkraut. It still tastes good, but I felt like I could have used a bit more to make it. The thing is, it tastes good. It wasn't like a Reuben to me.
Okay, yeah, that is completely fair. I would say it's more like a potato sandwich, than anything because it's like
exactly what I had, a potato sandwich.
It's good. It was a good potato sandwich. It's basically what that was.
Except it's actually tempeh, which is fermented soybean, I believe.
Yeah, fermented soybean. Crazy good.
It tastes good though. Tastes really good.
Yeah. So after we got our sandwiches, and got some things to drink, we sat down and ate that and listened to Marathon of Mayhem. We didn't really we didn't watch it that evening, but we listened to it at least, which was nice.
Okay.
Got me excited to watch it the next day. Then we headed back down. We looped through. We wanted to go over and do some of the New York houses in the corner to try to like kind of close out the evening because it was starting to get It was like busy. It started to dry out, so it started to get really busy again. So we are just trying to like get through lines and stuff and try to see. And it's like we went through Crypt TV, and then we went through Seek and Destroy to try to get to HHN Icons.
Mm-hmm.
And Icons had said a 50-minute wait. We're like, you know what? Let's do it. This is the lowest I've seen it right now. Pretty much everything is at this wait. Let's just walk in and do it. So we walked in, and we kept walking through the different queue, and and we ended up at a point, and I'm looking there, and I'm like looking at like where it's supposed to be, and I'm looking at the different lines. I'm like, there's no way. And apparently, that was a major miscalculated wait time, because we only waited 10 minutes instead of 50 to get into Icons. So you owe fist bump to the sign guy for letting us have a short one, because we went about 20 people till merge is when we stopped walking. And that's not that deep of a merge point at Icons. So yeah, it was great. Just walking right. We basically walked right into Icons on the first night and had a really good run there. I guess I'll keep the spoiler for whoever was that. We'll talk about that a little bit later. For that. Oh, excuse me. And then we looped around and we did the other soundstage haunt, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Had a great time in there. I got some fried Oreos, and I think that was the end of our night. We were soaked and tired and ready to go. We did 7 houses that evening, and we were pretty content with what we did.
I mean, because all 7 were the ones that you had not seen yet. You know, you saw the other 3 that you missed during HHN.
Exactly.
Light. So that sounds like a pretty successful night, especially with a wet start that kind of slowed you down a bit.
Yeah, I wish. I think we probably would have gone through more or been a little bit happier to go back through a couple different things if it hadn't been raining, and like us like stopping and resting and like trying to dry off and stuff really ate into our time for the first night. But I have frequent fear. The other people on my party had frequent fear. So one person in my party has frequent fear with Express. So thank you so much for being patient and waiting with the other people in the group who didn't. I really appreciated it. And I still had a great time. It was really good to be back. And I remember turning a corner, looking up at something, and saying to like one of the members of my party, being like, I think I like Halloween Horror Nights. And I said it just like that, just like no sarcasm whatsoever. It was like pure, genuine innocence. I think I like this.
So after about, coming up on 2 years of producing an HHN podcast, you've decided you might like HHN.
Yeah, I might like it. I don't know. I'm no longer on the fence. I'm over the fence and kind of leaning up against it, being like, it looks nice over here.
You're more than leaning. You're playing in the yard. You're rolling around in the dirt.
Yeah, I'm in the pumpkin patch. I'm in the
but yeah, that's awesome. You guys, wet but great experience, and that's this is your second like official HHN, your second official HHN night ever, and obviously your first opening night. So
yeah, it wasn't as successful as my first HHN night when I did 10 houses and did one house twice that night, and saw Marathon of Mayhem that year. I really lucked out with my free ticket that year for that. But yeah, I still really had a really enjoyable evening with that. And really, it's more of a community experience. Like, yeah, it's fun going through these houses, but it's also fun to leave the house and then turn to the person right next to you and be like, oh, that was a really good run. I really liked this part and that. So that's all part of that.
Well, I'm happy you got to experience that aspect of it this time.
And I'm happy that you got to experience what you're about to talk about.
Yeah, so I don't think I'm going to go as detailed as you. There's not as much variation to what's going to be going on. And also, I'm going to be honest, a lot of it was kind of when you hit the RIP tour part, kind of rushed, I'd say, for obvious reasons. So I don't even remember the order or whatever I did houses, so I'm going to make that part quick. But yeah, really cool. We got to start off. We checked in at Cabana Bay. We got a preview of the Jacked Up experience, which, I mean, for what it is, it's a glorified photo op. Let's be honest. It's fun. It's fun. It's a less than 10-minute experience for sure. But for me, getting a picture in Jack's Blender, it's well worth going over there and checking it out.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. There's even a little, not interactive, I'd say, but a video experience featuring Jack at the end as well. And there's just good pictures to take. So if that's your thing, if you like getting pictures about Horror Nights, mainly Jack, this is your spot. You want to hit it. And it's free to all guests staying on Universal property. So just show your room key. You'll be able to get in. And it's worth checking out for sure.
Oh, that's a really cool benefit for like on-site guests for Universal. So I'm glad you had a good time there.
Yeah, no, it was fun. There's also the Horror Icons Bar, which is available to all guests. You don't have to be staying on property. It's taken over the Swizzle Lounge in the lobby area at Cabana Bay. That one, I'm not going to recommend as highly. They have specialty cocktails. I only tried one, which was the Chance, which was like, I don't even remember what liquor was in it. I'm going to be honest. But it was sitting basically like a shot at the bottom. There was soda water on top. That was your drink. It was a little bit of a letdown. It was $15.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
it was a bit pricey. They do have a few props out and banners. The props are basically just like the iconic costumes and some of the props they'd be using, like the caretaker's shears are in there, storyteller's book and glasses, things like that. And then just some banners tossed up. So, I mean, if you're over there, yeah, stop and take a look, of course. But if that's, if you're not too interested in Jacked Up experience and you're like, oh, well, maybe Horror Icons Bar, that's going to get me over there. I guess if you really got time or if you really want to see it, but it's not something I'd say go out of your way to do. You're going to get better drinks in the parks, to be honest. And it's not like I think a lot of people are imagining this like extremely decked out experience. And that's just not the case.
Is that open every day or just days that they're holding the event?
Both of these are open. I believe it's daily 2 to 10 p.m.
Okay, cool. Only till 10? Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Like even the bar's just open till 10?
Yeah.
Wow. That's yeah, you're right. I think you have a fair review of that. Saying like it's maybe something you don't go completely out of your way with.
But I mean, if you're staying at like Cabana Bay, yeah, I mean, check out both.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But like if you're staying at, I don't know, Hard Rock, that's a trek across property. So if you really want to do it, again, Jacked Up experience, thumbs up. Horror Icons Bar, But then we did go over to Universal. We did fortunately get to experience some of the food and drinks available across the event. This took place in the horror makeup show lobby area. That was a really cool experience, and not even for the fact that we were getting fed and given like an open bar. But there's a lot of people that I've watched and listened to for a long time that I got to like mingle with there and chat with and share drinks with. So that was a really cool experience for that reason. I mean, the free stuff's cool too.
Yeah.
The food at this event is really good. I gotta say, I tried a fair bit of it, and they've stepped their game up for sure. And I think we knew that when we saw the more themed booths and in the amount that they were putting out, that they were going to step up their game. Then the menus came out. We're like, oh, okay, yeah, this really seems good. And it lived up to it. I didn't expect gourmet food, and I didn't get that. But I got really solid, like, festival, like Mardi Gras festival level foods, which at HHN is a godsend.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really glad that they are moving in that direction for the food. I was very blown away by all of that.
And then also, you kind of brought it up earlier, but vegan and vegetarian options aplenty compared to years past. So that's awesome that they're doing that as well.
Yeah. Didn't you have a little fun thing else at the horror makeup show?
Yes, I did. So they actually had some execs from the entertainment team come out and speak to us. It wasn't like the ones if you've seen vlogs in the past of Media Night where you had anyone from A&D come out and do a Q&A or anything quite like that. A little bit smaller scale. But after that, they did bring us into the theater for a horror makeup show where they kind of grouped us into our RIP tour groups where we were split up. A lot of us podcasts ended up together in the same RIP tour, actually. So that was pretty nice to get to hang out with people, a lot of which I already know and am good friends with. So that was cool. Then we got a talk to by a RIP tour guide in quotations. It was kind of like explaining how the night would go. I don't want to fully ruin it in audio because there's going to be great video, and I'm sure it's already posted on YouTube that you could check out. But Jack and Eddie make appearances. It's pretty cool. So yeah, go check that out if you can. I will actually post that in our YouTube video whenever that comes out. But if you want to see it right now when you're listening, if you're listening to this the day it comes out, go look at other people who did Media Night. They probably have it posted already.
It's really cool. I like this little bit a lot. So
yeah, I think they executed it well. And I was talking to some of the people who have been doing this event for years, the media event, and they say that's one of the cooler things they've seen with implementing characters into the event like that. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. But after that, it was pretty much, just went on an RIP tour. All I can really tell you with full confidence is we started with Case Files, and hell of a start. And we finished with Scary. Wasn't. I will say I had a terrible run of it that night. Missed everything. Like it was just a bad run. It redeemed itself a bit the next day. So, but yeah, no, it was a great experience. I'd say the best part is I didn't get wet like you did.
No, I didn't get. Yeah. It must be nice there on your little throne, looking down at the peasants as you walk past it. Now I'm a fool in there. No, it was a fantastic opportunity, and we definitely thank Universal a lot for inviting us out there. For that.
Yeah, definitely. And this is the part where I say, just because we were invited media does not mean we are not going to be critical or objective about the event. So just so you know that for the rest of the episode. Yeah. However, it's a very good year. So, we're not going to be too harsh at all just because it's a quality year. And I think most people would agree with that. So,
yeah. And we probably won't have as probably much nitpicking this time around. Like we will for a couple of things, but probably as the event goes on, I could probably see our nitpicking increase. Oh, for sure. Right now, we're just riding the high of the event.
Exactly. And I should point out that first night, I walked through the scare zones. Most of them I didn't really get to experience. I think Gorewood probably the most. And even then, that was very little. So got nothing first night from scare zones or shows. We didn't see the shows. So just got to knock out all 10 houses, which I was very grateful for because the next morning, Nico, what do we wake up to do?
We woke up to do Unmasking the Horror, the 6 house tour.
Yeah. So I wanted to make sure I had the houses knocked out. So I wasn't going in before I had seen them because that's, not something I wanted to do. So luckily for both of us, we had seen all the houses at this point. So we were ready for Unmasking the Horror tour. And it was actually our first ones, both of us, and everyone in our party for that matter.
Yeah, it was fantastic. I've never done a tour at Universal before, but they do a really good job making it fun and having different things like that. So I really enjoyed that.
And I got to say, my tour guides across both Unmasking the Horror and the RIP tour the night before, phenomenal. The guides were super knowledgeable, and they were just, they were like people who you want leading you around for hours. Like you're cool hanging out. Like they feel like you're hanging out with them kind of, like it's not just a tour. I think that's a really important aspect. Otherwise they can really lose your interest. But it almost kind of felt like you were like just hanging out with friends who were telling you a lot of info about stuff. And, like also sneaking you in areas you shouldn't be if they were just friends.
Yeah, I've taken a couple of tours at Disney, like behind the scenes and stuff like that just throughout my life. And I think I've done one at SeaWorld as well before too. But I've never done one at Universal. I think this was the best host I've ever had for any theme park tour I've ever done, which goes to say a lot for that.
And he was just, passionate about the event, a fan of the event. So I think, that's really important for something like this, for him to be able to fully deep dive into lore and past years and stuff like that. So it just adds that extra level, and willing to answer any question you had about the event. So it was great. I think we don't know how we're going to do it yet, but we're going to make some sort of episode to go over it, what we saw, what we thought. We're going to bring up some stuff later on about like what we saw and how that ties into what we think about the houses. But for now, I think we should pretty much just say, like, we did I'm Asking the Horror. We did 6 houses. It was what did we start with? Icons?
We started with Icons and we ended with Puppet Theater.
Yeah. So we did Icons, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Then we went all the way back.
Yeah.
We had lunch at Monster Cafe.
Then we did.
It's not included. You still have to pay. But it's the Horror Nights menu. They have it closed off just for Unmasking the Horror tour guests. But you do have to pay for the meal. Then we also knocked out Hill House, Wicked Growth, Puppet Theater, and Scary. So really good 6-house lineup, I thought.
Yeah, they definitely set it up so where you want these houses, and then Legendary Truth is in the 3-house tour. Yeah, and they definitely do that on purpose to get people like us to go on both tours.
So the only analysis we'll take right now of this that I want to know is, what was your favorite house to tour on Masking the Horror?
Favorite house to tour on that? Oh, wow. I think it was, believe it or not, Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
I believe it because I heard you go on and on about
I'm trying to set it up for the... I did. I was talking so much about like how much I enjoyed walking through there. They put so much detail into that house, and as someone who has seen like the IP and has some knowledge of it, I really enjoyed it from someone who's like a non-fan of the IP. If you are like a big Leatherface stan with any of that, you must go on that tour because you would probably love every single little bit of that. I think that was the best one. What about you?
It had to be Wicked Growth. I think a lot of
definitely fair. Yeah, that was mine too.
A lot of details, a lot of Easter eggs, some things that kind of like took lore, like from lore that didn't exist, and made it canon. So like, we'll talk about it when we talk about the house more. But just a lot to see and take in. And if you're an HHN nerd, there's going to be a lot that pleases you. I think things that most of them you would not see. You'll probably miss in the run, because I tried to see it later that day, just a few hours later. Couldn't see them, a lot of them, even though I was trying. So yeah, Wicked Growth for me. And this lasted about 6 hours, just so you know. So we did the 10 o'clock one. So basically going to lead you into the point where you're getting walked out of the park after, and you got to go right back in and scream if that's your plan.
They do have the 7 o'clock tour as well, 7 a.m. So if you want to do something else, or you feel like if you're not going to Horror Nights the night before, then yeah, maybe the 7 a.m. tour might be good. So you can go back to the hotel, take a nap, and then go to Horror Nights that night. Maybe don't spend a full night in the rain at Horror Nights, then wake up 5 hours later to then go on a 6-hour walking tour of said Horror Nights, and then do another run of Horror Nights. Just saying, I don't know if I'd recommend that.
It's worth it, but it is worth painful.
Yeah.
So we kind of gave it away. That's what we did after. We did the 10 a.m., got out around a little after 4, and went right back into the park for Stay and Scream, which we did Springfield, me for the first time this year, and you for your second time. Weather, much better. Sunny, warm, maybe a little too much so.
Yeah, a little too warm. Especially recording Stay and Scream cast.
But man, I've said on multiple shows, one of the things I'm looking forward to the most about HHN 30 is getting the return of going to Stay and Scream and hanging out with friends. and we got a lot more friends than usual. You know,
Oh my goodness, we did.
being,
Yeah.
doing the podcasting thing and then being on social media, talking about horror nights a lot now. We've made a lot of friends who some we've met before, some we met for the first time. Some people bumped into us and recognized us, and we appreciate speaking to everybody. We loved it. Like, it was a great time.
Oh yeah, 100%.
We were actually coming up this week on HHN 365 later in the week is Stay in Screamcast, which me and Hunter were trying to record. And I thought we were going to start earlier, but we found so many people and bumped into so many people we were talking to. It's like, oh shit, we got 20 minutes until they open up Stay and Scream. Until they let out Stay and Scream. So yeah, it was a great time. Got myself a Dufftoberfest. That's how we bumped into so many people. I only had time for one. I never even got to make it back.
And you could barely drink it too, because like you were stopping to talk to everyone. It was lukewarm by the time you were recording.
I know. But yeah, that's one of the things about HHN. It's this community event where it's just there's a bunch of awesome people in it who I enjoy interacting with, and so Stay and Scream is just an awesome experience. You aren't even you're at the event, but you're not going through houses. You're not in a scare zone. It's just all hanging out with people in the community, and it's a blast.
Yeah, fantastic night that night.
So instead of kind of going through a breakdown of everything we did again, well, I guess I'm gonna say everything, but we're not gonna do it step by step.
No,
we knocked out 6 houses, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think we did Wicked Grove, Puppet Theater, Scary. We didn't do Beetlejuice or Hill House, right?
No, we didn't do Beetlejuice or Hill House. After Scary, we did. Did we do Case Files?
I think we did Case Files next.
We did. No, we did Marathon of Mayhem. Next.
That's right.
Yeah, because we had a little
break at the hotel and came back. Yeah.
We
caught the 9:00 Marathon of Mayhem. I really enjoyed it. I think Nico enjoyed it more. We'll talk about that a little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
And then in no particular order, but we did Case Files, Brides, TCM, and Fairy.
Yep.
Or did we do Brides last night?
Yeah, we did Brides last night.
We did. Okay, cool. Yeah, so that's the 6 houses we did.
Yeah, we finished with Chainsaw. We did Tooth Fairy. We saw that there was nobody in line for Chainsaw when we were walking back to Tooth. So we did Chainsaw, and that's how we closed out the night. We almost did Brides one more time since there was no line for that, but we were exhausted. So
my favorite part of the night, though, was the fact that we actually got to spend a lot of time in scare zones. We said, you know what, we're gonna walk into each scare zone. Took a full loop around the park, and we stopped and chilled for at least 10 to 15 minutes in each one, and some even a little bit longer. And that's not, compared to the night before, what I got, it was so nice to actually get to experience them and see what they're about. And without the inclement weather, scare actors were out there. They had everything going, so we got the full experience. And I really enjoyed. There were ones that, on my quick walkthrough, I was like, oh, I don't know if it was as good as I thought it was going to be. Then when I got in there, got to interact with the scare actors, I was like, okay, yep, yeah, it kind of lives up to the hype for me. But again, we'll go into that in the next segment that we're doing. But yeah, do you have any just like basic thoughts about your opening weekend experience, or like anything you did different, anything you appreciate?
I definitely appreciate the fact that I'm going to go multiple times this year, so I didn't have the inkling that I had to get everything done. Like I knew I'd be able to get 2 other things. There are things I definitely wanted to do and make full nights of it, but I didn't have to have that like feeling that, oh, I have to see Halloween Nightmare Fuel, which spoiler, we didn't. We did attempt, but we just couldn't make it into, unfortunately.
Oh yeah. So Halloween Nightmare Fuel, we did like one of the, I don't remember what time it was.
We tried to do the 9:30.
Early. Oh, was it 9:30? Okay.
Yeah.
And we went and it was packed. So packed there was already a long line for the next showing. And it was 9:15 when we got
it was 9:15 that we got around there.
Showtime, and the line for the next showtime, which was an hour and a half later, 2 hours later, something like that.
90 minutes later, yeah.
Was all the way back to almost London.
And then when we went back to see, maybe it died down, the one for the 12:30 showing still had a humongous line.
Yeah, it wasn't quite as long, but still, it was a long one. Again, for the next showing, there was already a full theater, and it was still for the next showing. So it was just very busy, and we prioritized scare zones over that for the most part.
I think we made the right choice. No.
But, I mean, I've heard good things. I'm excited to see it. It just didn't work out this weekend. That's all. Yeah. So I guess we should kind of get into the main segment, and that's ranking things. Again, I feel like we just did this, but last time it was about hype. This time it's about what we actually saw.
Yeah.
So we thought it would be fun to compare our hype list to what reality was opening weekend.
What do you want to start off with first? Do you want to start off with?
Let's do shows.
Shows? Okay.
Wow, we did one. It was a Marathon of Mayhem. we both had it first on our hype list. I guess it's it's first. We'll tell you that much. Well, let's discuss it. What'd you think about Marathon of Mayhem Carnage Factory?
Okay, cool. I'll go ahead and take the good opinion of it.
I have a good opinion of it.
I know. Well, I'll take the even better opinion of it.
Okay.
I really, 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 really liked Carnage Factory. They took whatever they had from Marathon of Mayhem and just made more. Did it work 100%? No, but it was really just over the top. And having Jack kind of be your host of it was a really good thing. One thing I will say about this event is that I had a passing glance. Like, I knew of Jack. Now I really know Jack, and I might be a bit of a Jack stan. I'll see how I am at the end of the season, but I'm really liking him for that. And this show is very, very Jack heavy, so it kind of like ties it all together. So I really like that. The lighting packages are really good. It seems like they upped that. All of the laser is really good. The projections are about the same, but it's kind of like as much as you can do with water screens and reflecting across the buildings across there. But I really loved how loud the music was and how clear it was. Whatever sound system or updates that they made, that they were able to get super heavy bass going through to make it shake my chest, felt really cool. Like, this is something like that this feels like a show when you're like, oh, it's a Lagoon show at a Halloween event. That's what this show feels like. And it feels more like a Halloween event show than I think Marathon of Mayhem did last year, even though I think previous year's Marathon of Mayhem is better, but it's better slightly. I think Carnage Factory comes really close to lightning striking twice. It is definitely a lot closer than, say, Epcot Forever to Illumination's Reflections of Earth.
Well, I did think it's a very good show. I think, in fact, that there were certain water and lighting effects that were more impressive than 2019's version. However, it just doesn't captivate me the same way, and I think it's at a disadvantage. It doesn't have the 80s theme to go with it, which is a music style that kind of hits deep for a lot of people. It's colors that are more inviting. You had Killer Clowns, Stranger Things, and Ghostbusters soundtracks to work with, which resonate with a ton of people. So it was just at disadvantages for what it had to offer. I'm going to be honest, it was better than I expected, though. I thought it was going to not fall flat, but kind of be absolutely nowhere near what we saw at 29's event. But, I don't think it was necessarily close, but, it's a comparable show. I don't think it just fully dropped off. I think there's just a few things that, the properties don't work as well on screen. There was just a few weird things. One sticks out to me. There was a moment where Chance said, "It's my turn to play," and then absolutely did not have her turn to play. She just disappeared after that.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah. It's my turn to play. Bye.
I love Jack's performance in this a lot, but I feel like maybe it was too much Jack and not letting other icons like Chance, who actually spoke up, saying she'd get a chance but didn't, not letting them get their shine in it as well.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like also there was a lot of what was it? Why can't I think of the word? Not nuts and bolts, the the gears. It was like just a bunch of spinning gears in the background.
Oh, okay.
And it just did that like the entire time. So I would have liked a little more variation to what we were seeing. I get it. I get why. It fits the theme. Great.
Definitely fair.
And also it was very red. Again, fits the theme. I get it. But a little more variation I think would have helped, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. I think what a lot of people don't have, and this is me speculating like why some people may not like this as much, it doesn't have the button that that closes it all together like Marathon of Mayhem did, where it goes through and then it hits the rewind and then finishes out like that. That was such a great choice last year.
It was a unique finale. This one was a stunning finale, but an expected finale for that type of show.
Exactly. It wasn't as good of a bun on it as last year's. And I think because of that, everyone was expecting something like that to happen. It just fell just a little bit flat for people. I know our group that watched it was kind of like the, oh yeah, that's good. Not like, oh wow, group. So
except for you.
Yeah, except for me. I was the only one who was like, oh wow.
I think you actually said at first, you've decided against this since, but you said it could be better than 29's.
Yeah, I said it could. Like the initial reaction was like it could be. As I mellowed a little bit more, I later rescinded that.
Yeah, but again, I did think it was good. It's just not as good, and honestly, that was a nearly impossible task. 29's just had every tool it could need to succeed. Like one, a hiatus from Lagoon shows. Two, the first one they ever put on of that scale. Like that level for Horror Nights. So, and then also everything like the properties it had to work with, the theming it had to go with. It just, success was like built. Like that's the base. It didn't matter what you did. It was going to be good. But they did a good job. It's a show I'm going to check out quite a bit still. So again, thumbs up.
Yeah, definitely. Probably wait to see probably one of the later shows is what I'd recommend. They do multiple showings of it a night, so definitely probably hit the later ones. They'll be a little less crowded. It might fit into your plans a little bit better during the night is what I'd recommend.
Definitely. So what do you say we go into scare zones and rank them from bottom to top?
Bottom to top scare zones. Yeah, let's do it.
So I think scare zones are where I'm going to have the most change in what I'm ranking now by the end of the event. Again, there's some that I didn't see as well as others at this point. But let's just talk about our initial reactions after opening weekend. What is your number 5?
Number 5 easily is Crypt TV.
Oh, and where'd you have that on your hype list, Nico?
I think I had that at the bottom of my hype list as well.
So
yeah,
why?
This I don't think is quite. This is probably the most logistics issue that there is with that. So usually in a scare zone, you do expect to walk around characters to like actually be walking through and interacting. The 2 nights I went through there, neither of them were there. Not on the wet night, not on the super dry night. There were no walk around characters. They were all just either on their little stage that they had set up, or they were like, there was like a little circle. There's one that was not on a stage. It wasn't raised up. It was on the ground, but they just never left like their perimeter that they had in that. And it is so close and funneled that it is so congested through that little area, and you can't really walk off the side of the street and still kind of enjoy it from the side like you can with some others. You can't really get a good show with it. They really need to look into expanding that. If they want a scare zone there, they need to look into expanding it farther out towards the Fast and Furious like entrance area and a little bit of the first aid street. I can understand not having it be right on top of first aid, but I think we can push out a little bit farther to Fast and Furious a little bit more, at least spread out that scare zone.
Mhm.
And I'm really glad that they put Crypt TV in the smallest space, because I feel like, oh, it looks like we have to do this. Let's just put it here. I'm glad that it was placed there instead of one of the other locations, because I think it would put a sour taste in people's mouth if it was somewhere else, because it is probably the most optional of all of the scare zones, is that one.
Mhm. And I hate to say it, but yeah, number 5 for me too. For pretty much all the reasons you said. And if you think Hellbilly Deluxe got really crammed and was a photo op zone, because all the scare actors are simply on separate stages. There was one of the times we walked through where literally every single stage had massive crowds of people just trying to get selfies with the characters. And it was insane to try to get through. Insane. So, that's never fun. It makes you not want to hang out there and spend time there. But we did get to a little bit later in the night. We went there when it was a little less busy, and we did hang out and try to take it in. And I really think a lot of the scare actors, not a lot, I think all the scare actors I saw were absolutely hamming it up on stage and we're doing a great job.
Yeah.
However, you have the issue of they're confined to simply on these stages and these sets. I'm also a big fan of scare zones who have this cohesive theme throughout. And while all of these are within the same universe, it very much felt like different story on this stage, different story on this stage, different story on this stage, because that's what it is. That's exactly what it was. And it just felt a little choppy. And then, again, there was nothing actually in the streets. It was all limited to those stages. So, for that reason, I think it's fine. I don't think it's a bad zone. I just think what it is by nature is not something that's going to suit what I want in a scare zone.
Absolutely there. Yeah. And when we say and exactly like you said, the characters that are in there are doing the best job that they can with what they have.
Mm-hmm.
And they are some of probably the better characters there, because almost all of them are face. Almost none of them have a mask. They're pretty much all have really good makeup and have good hand props and stuff. But yeah, it's definitely the place where you do it for the gram. Scare zone, probably the most out of all of them.
Oh, and I don't think I said it, but this was number 5 on my hype list. So
yeah,
shocker.
Yeah.
So your number 4 scare zone, Nico.
My number 4 scare zone of the event. Oh crud! I had I had it, and then I was like, no, it's that. No, it's that. You know what? I think it's Gorewood Forest.
Ooh, actually, that's not a rare opinion from what I've seen so far. So tell me why.
Oh, it was number 1 on my hype list.
Yeah, there we go.
Because I was really looking forward to it, and it was good. Terror Queen is amazing this year. Apparently, and I looked up pictures of her from how she usually was, and they've really improved her head, part of the costume. So she looks really good this year.
Mm-hmm.
And
is nice.
Yeah, and I like the effects of the fire tree, the trees that look like they're burning from the inside out.
Mm-hmm.
I like that look a lot. And I like that. It's just, they just come out of their caves, and it's such a small area that you can't really crowd the street with them a lot, and with stilt walkers and that. So it's really just an issue that I see with Central Park.
Mm-hmm.
I saw it with Vikings Undead, and I'm seeing it with this, that, it is a great place to put a scare zone, because it kind of gets you through. It's like, this is the only way you can go through this way, which it is cool that they kind of force you through there. But at the same time, that's what hurts it the most, is its location. They can't spread their wings as much as it feels like they want to with that.
Mm-hmm.
But they also really can't move any farther out, or they're affecting the food booths and that open area and affecting traffic up there towards the pet theater and kid zone, and they can't move it any closer to Mel's Die-In, or you're interfering with guest flow into the Central Park for Marathon of Mayhem, and with guests flowing into Cafe La Bamba and other things like that. So really, they're just stuck with where they're at, and I want more of this scare zone. I want more of how this feels, but you can only do with what you got there, and unfortunately, Garwood Forest is just not as good as the other ones this year.
Okay, all right. Well, my number 4, I think I have to go with 30 Years, 30 Fears.
Okay.
And kind of for a similar reason as Crypt TV, and that's they do have scare actors in the streets. However, it's limited. I don't think there's more than 4 at a time. Could be wrong, but in my walkthroughs, that's what I noticed from what I've heard from others. Sounds accurate. 2 of which being stilt walkers. Great. It's blood and bone. I think that's cool. But it just, again, it's kind of not much going on, and it's a very small area. They keep it to a tight section of the street. Basically, they don't go much further than the trusses, and then also the like photo op props of the icons. I like, and another thing is it's a kind of a best of scare zone thing again, which we already have going on in another zone. It was only 3 in my hype list, so it's not much further down. It's not like it's a huge letdown. I kind of expected it not to be that high up because it just provides good vibes. It looks cool. It's got the flames kicking. It's got the neon Halloween Horror Night sign that's iconic. But it just provides vibes that I enjoy, but doesn't really deliver anything content-wise.
Okay, that's definitely a fair review. That's my number 3. I'll just go ahead and go just right into it so we can keep talking about this. I can definitely agree with those points. I think I like the energy a lot better in this scare zone than I say in Gorewood Forest, and that's kind of what edges it out, because all the issues that I have with Gorewood, I kind of do have with this scare zone as well. But I think this one, for some reason, just hits it a lot more. I think the rigging, the scaffolding that they have with all that looks really fucking cool. The flames, the red lettering, just how it goes, the lighting package that's in there, how it just shines right into your eyes, the copious amounts of fog that's just going through there. It feels like a really good scare zone. It feels like a great way to pump you up for the rest of the event. So that's why it kind of edges up above Gorewood. I think I had 30 Years, 30 Fears around this level on my hype list anyway. So yeah. So what's your number 3?
My number 3 is Lights, Camera, Action, Eddie's Revenge, which I had at number 4 when I made my hype list. So not, again, too far of movement. I mean, I think here's the thing. I kind of thought it was going to be a bit of a mess thematically. It is so far. I think maybe if I take it in a bit more, that opinion could change a bit. But it's fun. It's got a lot of scare actors out there. It's got a lot of scare actors you'll recognize if you've been going to the event for a while. Again, this is the other kind of best of scare zone. Some of my favorite scare zone properties are out there. Of course, you got Treeks and Foons, which everyone who hasn't seen has been dying to see, myself included. And just, it's nice to see familiar faces as they're trying to kill you. I still don't fully understand why they had to implement Eddie and why that was necessary and why they went with the story they did. But at the end of the day, it's fun to walk through.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of fog. And, again, it just feels like a nice Horror Nights tribute that, you know what? I like walking through it. So I think that puts it firmly at 3 right now.
Yeah, and it's funny because that's my number 2 scare zone. This feels like a classic scare zone. So once again, this is the point where it's like I have no emotional or cultural connection to anything in this scare zone. But it still works for me because it's kind of like a hodgepodge of different things, and I got what they're going for, but it it works for some reason. This hodgepodge, it doesn't feel forced or out of place, and it's cool that they kind of have the pack scenery, kind of like on everything to try to tie it all together for someone who doesn't quite know anything about that. It's cool to have that, and it's cool to have so many different characters in this one little scare zone too. So many different costumes, costume changes, different sets, different pieces. It all works really, really well. Like if you had to describe to someone what a scare zone was and like what are typical elements of a scare zone, I would point them to Lights Camera Action because it has the fog, it has the chainsaws, it has the stilt walkers, it has the stages, and it has really good costumes and really, really good characters in it.
Mhm.
And I can't really, I don't really have a fault with it, to be honest with you. It takes up the whole street, through there, and it's really fun walking through it from beginning to end. Great interaction with the characters in there, and yeah, I'm having a really good time. And I guess that's Eddie in the middle, which, like I said, was looking pretty good.
Mhm.
Uh, but
Yo.
yeah, it's a great scare zone. I really enjoyed it. I know people are going to be going like, "Oh, he doesn't know scare zones, and why would he think this is a good one?" And that's completely fair. That's completely fair. I've only been through 10 of these bad boys. Actually 9, because I don't think I ever went through the Vanity one from 29 when it was open.
Went through it.
I walked, and we for some reason we all just walked around it, and I
Huh.
only walked through it after the event was over. So I never walked through there.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah,
But hey,
so
fuck what they say. It's your list.
yeah, it's my list.
Also, I think a lot of people are liking this, so they won't knock you for it anyways.
Yeah, and that's kind of like the sentiment I've gotten from everyone else around there. So that's my number 2, Duff. What's your number 2? I think I know what it is, but what is your number 2?
Do you? So my number 1 and my 2 are actually the same 1 and 2, just flipped from my hype list. The number 2 I'm going to go with right now is Gorewood Forest. That was number 1 in my hype list for obvious reasons if you've ever listened to the show. And that's why it does still get a high rating. Getting to go visit Terra Quintus in Gorewood Forest, see the Terra Queen, whose redesign is badass. She doesn't really get a full show, and that, not even like a full show, but more of a show. It's a very basic kind of. There's a little bit of audio. I'm not even going to call it dialogue because she's not like actually speaking. I don't think it's a real language. I'm pretty sure I can barely hear her. It's really low, but it doesn't sound like it's an actual language at all. And she sacrifices Eelmouth, which I thought was strange, but cool to see that happen. That if you didn't know that was kind of like her right-hand man, you could say, previously. And now he's getting sacrificed. So that was jarring, yet cool to see. So I'd say knock it a little bit just because I wish there was a little bit more of her doing something. Still my queen, though. I don't give a shit. I think the knuckle grunts popping out of like the mine caves looks pretty great. Their design looks good. I felt like there is a good amount of scare actors for that zone and how busy it can get. I think the lighting looks good. It's just a really solid zone that I would like more from. And not even like more that could be picked up throughout the event. Like I wish it would have been built to have just a bit more. The only reference we get to like the Terror Beast, the motorcycles, is like you occasionally hear them like the sounds passing by, like from the speakers in the bushes. So I feel like they kind of very limited what's in the zone. What's there is great. I have not really any complaints. It's just so limited that it's tough to put number 1.
Yeah, no, yeah, completely agree with that. And that's That's really cool because that's what you're looking for in a scare zone, and I'm looking for something different, I guess, for a scare zone. And
Mhm.
that's really cool that they're so far different on our list for that. But this next one isn't. This one is right here together, and you and I had an amazing time in here
Yeah,
last night.
yeah, we hit everything. Go ahead and say, just go ahead.
Yeah, Seek and Destroy
Seek and Destroy.
for that. So
Where'd you have it on your hype?
I think it was number one.
Wait, no, you had it number 2 on your hype.
Yeah, because you're right. You're right. Yeah, I had it number 2. That's right.
Right.
Because Gorewood was number 1. That's right.
I
Yeah,
also
sorry.
had it number 2. Really quick, let me tell you something. If I would have done this list after opening night, where I simply just kind of got to walk through everyone, this would have been 4 or even 5. So our experience when we actually finally got to go and hang out in the zones the next day, fully flipped the script. Obviously, this is now number 1.
Yeah, it is an absolutely fantastic scare zone. The sheer number of characters in the scare zone is just blows my mind. When I was sitting there on a bench, you went off to go get food, so I was just chilling on a bench with someone else in our party. We watched them do a cast change, and they just kept going and going and going and going, and it's amazing how many characters they just squeeze into that space. That they really use the New York area in front of Mummy, and they really use it extremely well.
Yeah.
And I like the costumes in there. I
do too.
like the sci-fi. I like kind of the dehumanization of the face with that, and the cyber queen.
I think this is the controller.
She is. Oh, she's the controller? I thought the face was.
Oh, you're talking about on the stage. Okay.
On the stage. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I think this is a good point
actual
for us to point out that most people don't seem to like the costumes, and most people don't seem to be loving this zone. We have very different experience, and I agree with you. I like the costume designs. I like that, like sci-fi, like kind of like 70s sci-fi, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, like Logan, very Logan's Run.
I like the controller as well. And I like the sets and the props involved, and I like how you walk by and like they'll scan you. I like the searchlights going across the street. There's platforms everywhere that they can be on, and not in the sense that like, oh, they're all on platforms. They're on platforms, but they're fucking packed in the streets too. They're everywhere. Yeah. There's chainsaws still involved
for some reason.
Some of them have nightsticks. You know, they have a lot of different hand props. And I think, you know, it's just a beautifully designed zone, as well as a lot of fun. Because Nico, we went to go watch the main stage show where the controller is. What we thought was like, you know, just a stage show. We're gonna stand here. It looks like something's gonna happen. It's not just a stage show. I was then accosted by some of the scare actors and brought up to the controller, who then starts speaking to me and asked why I was in front of them.
Yeah.
I thought it was the main scare actor on stage, so I talked to them and I answered. It's like, because they dragged me over here. Then the controller yelled at me because I didn't speak directly to them, and I had to look up. But yeah, and it did this whole thing where basically like, you know, get down on your knee, you pledge allegiance to me, and you know, I'll give you immortality and stuff like that. And like to this whole point where like they came up and like surrounded me with, I think it was 6 scare actors. Everything went fully red lighting over us.
Yeah.
As, you know, the controller gave me immortality and then told me to get the fuck out of there.
Oh, it's so cool. And
yeah, you actually get the opportunity to fully interact, speak with the controller. You know, what I said mattered, and they was spoken directly to. And so it's not just a standard show. They're involving guests. And I've seen videos of other people doing it, and it's not the same thing every time either.
Yeah, it is a really great guest interaction, and it's something that really sticks out. Every character there, and to go back to the platform things. So they have like these weird triangle stages that they have that are probably no more than 2 feet off the ground, just enough there, and you're like, oh, I'm safe from them. Nope, they will hop off that thing and get in your face. And I think that's a lot of fun.
And what they do to us. This was right after we finished what happened on the main stage. We walked another 10 feet, And then what happened, Nico?
We were forced to get down on our knees and stare at a flashing obey sign from the controller. That was
we didn't do it. We
yeah.
refused this part.
Yeah.
And got accosted for it. But told to bow as the rest of our group did. They were bowing to the obey sign where there was a scare actor on a platform as well. So
yeah.
it's just like a very interactive, fun zone.
Yeah.
And I know not everyone has the same opinion. I don't know if maybe they didn't get the same experiences. Maybe they got an experience like I did the first night where, to be fair, had nothing to do with scare zone. It's just we walked through so quick with the tour that, I didn't really get to see any of that or experience any of that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that is so much fun. And, maybe it's not everyone's thing, that kind of interaction. But I loved it, man. And I don't know if it'll stay number one. I could see other zones potentially passing it. But for now, yeah, that's my number one. I had so much fun for that. Probably good. It was about 30 minutes we spent in there on that trip.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We spent a lot of time, and I feel like that's a place that a lot of people are going to be hanging out a lot.
Mhm.
Is that there and Haction, I think, are going to be like the two like hangout scare zones.
Yeah. Which location wise makes sense. That's how it usually is.
Okay. Oh, really? Oh, cool.
Yeah, I mean, they're the largest. They got benches in them.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's our scare zones.
Yep.
Now to the big one, the houses. Nico, I've never had a hype list come so close to any of my actual rankings. It's crazy, like actually crazy.
So bizarre. I never would have thought. I'm like, I was so expected to get let down, and then not being let down. Really, it was so good. Such a strong lineup this year.
Oh, for sure. I think I have 4. It might be 5 that are spot on to my hype list, and I mean, I'm going to give it away. The top 3 are all exactly my top 3 of my hype list.
If you've been on Twitter, you would know.
Yeah.
Seeing like everybody's reaction from those. You've seen those 3 houses get mentioned a lot on there.
So I said those are the same, but let's start at number 10, where it's actually also the same as my hype list. That's Beetlejuice.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta say, it's not bad. It's not a bad house. It's on par for like what Ghostbusters was for 29 for me, which finished 7, maybe 6. So this would be higher most years, but not high at the same time. It's just too much of this is a fun house, and that's not my thing. I can go in and appreciate it and have fun, but it's not going to beat out Horror Nights houses that feel like Horror Nights to me.
Yeah.
Also, big part. Remember how we always thought that there would be huge additions like the Deo scene?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, real quick, we're spoiling the houses. So, 5, 4, 3,
2, 1.
Right. Yeah, we're gonna spoil stuff, so I hope you're gone now if you don't want to hear spoilers of houses. Deo scene has no scare actors still, no pluses. It's all the house is exactly the same as it was for HHN Light.
Yeah, so I did not go through Beetlejuice. The wait times for it were insane the whole weekend. So I guess I will just put that as Actually, but I can't put that as my number 10.
Yeah, you don't have to. Okay, you just won't have a 10.
I just won't have a 10 for that one. So I will have it there. I will make sure I get Beetlejuice in on my next trip. I might try to do Stay and Scream for that. I don't know yet for that. But my number 9 in this case would be, unfortunately, I think it's Hill House.
I knew that was coming. I knew it.
The more that I let it fester and sit in me, I think it's Hill House. And I think that kind of lines up with my hype list. I think I put Hill House as like my number 9 as my most hype, because I had Tooth as my least hype. Mm-hmm. And then I think I had Hill House and then Beetlejuice on my hype list. But yeah, this one lined up right there with it. Once again, I think this is a house where if you are not that much of a fan of the IP or have no idea of the IP, I don't know how much enjoyment you're really going to get out of this house, because the set design is cool, but it's mainly if you kind of know the show. It's a little boring, I'm not going to lie with that. There are segments of it that are really cool, like the tall man character's cool in there, but Hill House just kind of, it just, I don't know, it's just not as good as any of the other houses in the event, unfortunately. And that's not to say that Hill House is a bad house, because I don't think there's a bad house this year. I just don't think it's as good as a super duper ooper loaded year this year.
Mm-hmm. Well, Nico, I thought about this a lot, and you're going to be shocked, but I also put Hill House at number 9.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. As someone who's loves the show, I think it's a phenomenal show. Facade is beautiful. Some of the sets do look really great. I think you have the tall man, the one that's like 9 feet tall there near the end. That is super impressive and intimidating coming at you. And the way he moves towards you too. Oh man. I also this could change. I think this one has the most potential to go up. I don't know how. I don't think it has the highest ceiling, but I think it can go up because I also had a terrible run, Nico. Terrible. Every effect I missed. I like every effect. Nell is when she unfortunately drops down in the noose. So we found this out during Unmasking the Horror, is that they actually put it on both sides, time to go separately, so you wouldn't miss it. How did I miss it? It was not on either side. I turned the corner and I saw it light and it happened, but I barely saw her at all. So I kind of slowly trotted through that section. I looked to the other side, nothing. I was like, okay, I thought it was what? Why is it still nothing happened? One of those situations where then as soon as you pass it, you see a little flash behind you. You're like, oh fuck. All right, great. I also learned on Unmasking the Horror, she does it one more time in front of you in that Pepper's Ghost effect. Guess who didn't see that?
Yeah, that's real. That's really a shame. So I really hope you get a good run in there, because
and then just in general,
I felt like I got a good one.
I missed a lot of there were obvious boo holes where I saw way ahead of me or heard behind me the triggers. Where I missed Nell, where she's floating above you. I literally was bending my neck backwards as I was walking past to try to get a glimpse. I saw a flash of light in her feet kind of by the time I was out. It was just not a good run. However, I also think that the sets, I'm not going to use the word boring, but there aren't hidden details, which we can kind of confirm because we did Unmasking the Horror and actually saw it in the light. And I will tell you, our Unmasking the Horror guy didn't have a lot of details to talk about. He just talked about the show because there wasn't too much you couldn't already just see just by looking at it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's kind of a book report. I think it was kind of marketed like it would be about the house. And, you maybe probably wouldn't see the characters. You see almost all the main characters, and it feels like you're following the story more than anything else. There were a couple cool effects, I think Steve, his wife's when he was dreaming about his wife being pregnant, they depict that and the stomach's moving on the scare actor. That was cool. Again, I think some of the character designs were really cool. Like Tall Man has a good scare. They used the black tunnel twice. One with Nell up top, and then one more like Graveyard Games, where it's just them antagonizing you walking through. So I think there were some cool parts. Again, not a bad house. Just in a strong year like this, and mixed with a bad run that I had. After opening weekend, at least, it's number 9. And it was number 5 on my hype list.
Oy. That's sad for that.
Yeah.
But like I said, hopefully this will be, this has a really, really high ceiling because there are some people that are calling this one of their favorites of the event.
I've seen a lot of people who have it number 1. And which, that's fine. I think, one, you probably got a good run through. Two, maybe that's your house. That's the kind of things you like. Where if it's more of a, book report version of a property, it's not something I'm just generally going to like as much. So,
yeah. So my next one, number 8, I'm just going to go ahead and say it to get out of the way. Tooth Fairy, Revenge of the Tooth Fairy. It did improve maybe a little bit for me. I saw what you were saying, what you've been saying, Duff, about the improvements to Tooth Fairy, and I did recognize them. The house is still really inconsistent in terms of how it handles the vinyl in there. There are some scares where you get like that happen just like because they go right up to the vinyl and it's fine, and there are some scares that happen and there is no vinyl. So it's like, why do you kind of have both in this house? It feels like it's hindered the most by operations. Not really a fault of creative in this case. That's really just what I have to say. I mean, everyone knows that I wasn't the biggest fan of Tooth Fairy to begin with. I did like my run through Tooth Fairy better than my run through Hill House, and that's why I have it ranked up a little bit higher.
Okay. Well, I also have it at number 8, and it was actually also at number 8 in my hype list, mainly due to us having seen it last year at HHN Light. But yeah, I think there were some pretty good improvements. I think it was the most improved of the HHN lighthouses. I think getting rid of some of the areas that had plexi last year and either replacing with a less imposing vinyl / not having anything at all helped the intensity a bit. There were some new added fairy designs, a few new scare locations, like where the drill was, where there was nothing, now has a scare actor. So it felt a little bit more intense than last year. Just more to it. I think it's still heavily hurt by being in a year where unfortunately there has to be restrictions. So it can't get the full claustrophobic type feeling throughout the entire house like it should. To get right. Still, again, of course, I love that facade. It's so unique, so good, and it does still provide a vibe that I would be looking for in a house. It just doesn't match what it should be, one, and what others this year are.
Yeah.
So, for that reason, it is down at 8. It's still a house that I'm going to enjoy going through quite a bit this year, but yeah, 8.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. All right. Number 7. This is where it starts to get a little difficult, Duff.
My 4 to 7 is very hard.
Yeah. Let me see what I have here. Okay. My number 7 here is probably going to be scary. Yeah, welcome to Scary Ohio. Is there? I was lucky enough to do 2 runs of this through the weekend. My second run was a lot better and actually moved it quite up there and up on my rankings list. And our tour of Unmasking the Horror of it also had me get a little bit of a better appreciation of it. Because there are 2 scenes in this house that I really, really like. The house is a little messy. It doesn't really flow well together for someone who does not know any of these characters. Once again, no emotional connection, no cultural connection.
Don't worry, the flow still doesn't go well for someone who does.
Yeah, and I think we had that. Like, fortunately we went and there was no one. And when we say no one, there was no one in line in front of us or behind us. So our group of like 7 walked really slowly to try to do that through the house to try to maybe work on some of the pacing issues, try to see if we can get every scare. And I definitely got a lot more and had a lot better run there, especially the big air and character scare in the little legendary truth room, the spirit seekers room that's in there. Um, I love that scare. I love the meats scare. That I think that's a really good one as well. There, really good through there. This I feel like is a house that that might continue to rise. Or a 7, just it feels like a really good spot for this house. It's not to say that this house is bad. It's just that it's just not as good as the others, and there's like I said, pacing issues, not knowing where, and sometimes not knowing where you're going in a house is a good thing. In this one, I don't think it's that good of a thing. Um, especially like when we get to the burning schoolhouse and stuff like that. Um, yeah, like I want this to be. I kind of wish this house was better because I think people who like are fans of all this stuff would really like it. But yeah, 7 I feel like is a fair spot for it currently on my list.
Nico, I think this will change eventually, but we are hitting like for like because number 7 for me is Welcome to Scary.
Wow.
Yeah. Which honestly was lower after opening night. I had 2 bad runs opening night.
Oof.
Hill House I had already mentioned. Scary, just as bad. Like you had said though, the next day we got through it and it was a phenomenal run.
Yeah, great run.
However, it's still only 7 for me right now. Again, I could see this one moving up. I think there's more maybe I have to be able to take in during an actual run and not just like we saw in the Unmasking the Horror tour, which a lot of hidden detail in this house that I really enjoyed a lot. And I was able to pick up more the second night, of course, because I'd been shown it. But again, I think there are some pacing issues in the house, even with us trying to control our destiny, having our own group by ourselves. It just felt like there was pacing issues where it's almost impossible to hit everything, I think you probably didn't know this. I don't know if I talked to you about this with you, but the spawning, the first room, the Scolders, which are those creatures, had a redesign that's very different, and they look a little goofy. They have like very large human-like teeth, when before they had like this mouth that had like basically 4 little fangs, kind of. They look very different, and it caught me off guard. Not necessarily in a good way. I was kind of like, yeah, I don't know, I like this redesign, I think there are some highlights. The schoolhouse / orphanage scene looks beautiful. It immerses you better than anywhere else in the house. I think Cindy, I watched, I don't know why, it seems like a pretty standard around the corner scare, but I've only gone through it twice, and I watched it wreck. I guess I only saw it the first time because I didn't see anyone get wrecked. I think you were fine. I saw it wreck multiple people on my first run. Like she destroyed people, and that's fun to watch. And then yeah, it's just fun to go through things I know and I enjoy. But again, I prefer something that's a cohesive story. This is just, we're taking stuff from Carrie. You've been here, you love it. Go through it again, piece by piece by piece by piece. It's a montage. They did, I think, well. Now that I got a good run through, I think it's done really well. But it's still just not what I'm looking for in a Horror Nights house. It's something I appreciate. I think I'm going to have a lot of memories from this house, but it's not going to be super high on my list at the end of the day. Also, this was number 4 on my hype list and now dropped down to 7 after opening weekend.
Okay. So the next 6 houses that I'm going to talk about are in no way think that these are bad houses whatsoever, because these next 6 that I have left on my list are absolutely incredibly phenomenal houses.
Would you say they're all in your top 10 all time?
You know what? I'm gonna have to sit down and see that, but they might be, to be completely honest with you. I think all 6 of these houses, with the exception of probably the top 2, can easily start moving around here. But I'm stalling because I really don't want to say what I'm about to say.
Oh, just say it.
Number 6 for me is Bride of Frankenstein.
Whoa! Oh no!
I just have, Duff, I just have to be honest with you
Didn't
and
you say
myself and the audience.
after Light that was maybe your favorite house you've ever done? Out of, at the time, 13 houses.
I think I was just like riding the high of it, and it was head and shoulders better than what was there at the event, because it is so much better than Beetlejuice and so much better than Tooth Fairy that it goes up for there. Granted, I only have one run through it, and it was a really good run, but I had better runs in other houses that time. Granted, I've done 2 runs and the rest of the 5 after this. No, I've had, except for one, I've had better runs through those. That's not to say that this house is not phenomenal, which it absolutely is. It's just that just goes to show you how great this event is. That one of my favorite houses, like of all the ones that I've ever experienced, that this house is number 6 in a really, really, really stacked year. I don't know what much more I can say about it. It just doesn't reach it to the level of other things that I had. And this was number 3 on my hype list. I was so hyped to see this again.
After you had already seen it.
After I had already seen it and now it's at number 6. And that goes to show you how great this event is.
Well, Nico, my number 6 is something I know you've been enjoying a lot, but it just couldn't make it higher for me, and that's Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Completely fair.
I think it's a very fun take on the property. They made us think it would just be about the original 1974 film, and it is not. They added in characters like Chop Top from Texas Chainsaw 2. They took original approaches, one of them being that the iconic red hallway. They took you into that room and showed you what they picture it to be. Chop Top's room, the super psychedelic hippie room was it's just kind of fun. I think the way I put it yesterday is this house is serious, but it doesn't take itself serious.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
No, no, you're absolutely right with that.
The facade is beautiful. There's the scale in this house is really nice. The sets look great. There's some decent scares, mainly from the Leatherfaces popping out. You get Leatherface shooting sparks at you, throwing the chainsaw at the windows. It's a really good house. It's better than I expected it to be. I did have it at 7, so it's only one spot higher than I had it on my hype list. But I was really impressed. I did just kind of expect it to be Texas Chainsaw Massacre with a bigger scale, and that's not what it was. They did a lot differently. They took a fully different approach, and I appreciate that. It just couldn't make it higher against the competition. That's all.
Yeah, absolutely with that. My number 5 in this case is not Chainsaw, but it is right. It is another soundstage house. It is Icons, I believe.
Oh, 5.
Yeah, 5. And granted, so the rest of my list is ones that I've been able to do runs of twice. So it just compared, if I would have been able to get maybe one more run on Icons, it might be a little bit more fair to it. But now that I think about it, I'm like, just the average of the 2 runs that I had in the 4 houses ahead of this are better than my one run through Icons. And that's not to say I had a bad run through Icons, because I had a great fucking run through there. Absolutely fantastic house there. Once again, I don't really have any connection to that or with any of the Icons, but it's a really cool house to bring everything all together. And I think I said this to you, Duff, that I feel like this is this year's Universal Monsters, where it's kind of like we're bringing all your favorites together and we're just making a big old stew with them. And that's what Icons feels to me. And it feels like a really good, like, kind of blend like that. Really good rerunning ability because of the random thing that happens at the end with which icon ends up on the throne. But pretty much they pretty much give all your icon, the majority of them, really good sets, really good scenes, and gives every single one of them really decent amount of time to really enjoy. Like whichever one's your favorite, you go in and enjoy, and you're like, oh man, I really wish I was getting killed by these icons.
Take me, caretaker.
Take me, caretaker. Take me down. Take me, Jack now, and Usher, who I had almost no connection to whatsoever. I really liked his. That was probably my favorite set in there was the Usher set. Going through
when
that.
We're doing Unmasking the Horror, I know you were really enjoying that.
Yeah, that was my favorite part of that. So, yeah, I mean, I on my first run, I did have icons all the way up at number 3. I didn't do a second run on it, so I think that's why it kind of settled down at 5. This very possibly, though, could re-enter my top 3 by the end of the season. But just as it is right now, icons for me is number 5.
All right, fair enough. Well, my number 5, it's something that feels crazy for me to put. Like saying it's 5 feels weird because of how much I enjoyed the house and how impressive I think the house is. I could see this one going up. I could actually also see this one going down because, like I said, I don't fully understand why it's not higher for me. There's something almost not fully resonating. And I'm going with Puppet Theater at number 5.
Completely fair. Yeah,
I had it 6 on my hype list, so pretty close. And again, I think, it's got good scares, really good scares. It's the sets for a tent are phenomenal. The scale that they create, the story it tells, it's a great house. But there's just this something that doesn't fully connect for me, and I really can't pinpoint exactly what the issue is, and I don't want to call it an issue because it's number 5 in a strong year, and it came very close to being number 4, very close. But there's just something, and maybe that will click, and it could jump up into the top 3. And maybe it will never click, and it'll drop a little bit lower. I don't know. All I know is I think it's a very impressive house, scare wise, set wise. There's funny moments. I love the Hamlet scare actor with the head.
Yeah.
He reaches it under the vinyl. I think there's that great scare in the wardrobe where they pop out of the hanging clothes. The first time you go by the stage, that scene's beautiful. They cram like 4 scare actors in there. There's just so much good about it. And I don't know why it's again at 5. I don't know why I can't fully connect with it. But that's where it is.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And let's keep talking about Puppet Theater because that's my number 4.
All right, let's go.
Yeah, Puppet Theater. Probably the biggest surprise of the event, I would say. Because I don't think many people were thinking that Puppet Theater was going to be as good as it is. And it has no reason to be as good as it is for there.
Let me bring it up for you just in case you weren't going to, because I forgot to. That facade. That's a great facade.
A fantastic facade out front. Much better than the 2 sprung tent facades that I had last 29. So well, it was Depths of Fear and that. So I did kind of like the Depths of Fear.
Nightingales was good. It just didn't have nearly as much.
No,
Puppet Theater.
They really threw everything at the wall for the Puppet Theater facade, and it is really amazing and really cool. And it really sets the tone for what you're about to go through and experience. It makes it feel really big while also making you feel like you are constantly walking backstage at there. Because if you've ever been backstage at a theater, you know that there's a lot of nooks and crannies and like some things that don't really make sense and like weird elevation changes of like the ceiling is higher and lower like that. So it really works out well with that. There's a great like mirror scare in there.
The fake mirror scare that I know you love.
Yeah, the fake mirror scare. I love that scare. And I'm glad you brought some love to our Hamlet actor with the skull, with the head who reaches underneath, because you're like, oh, it's a vinyl. He's not going to reach out to me. Nope. Scoops down and scares you like that. So good. There's so many good scares in there. It's jam fucking packed in there. And yeah, just a standing ovation for Puppet Theater is what I would say.
It's crazy because we talked about how much skill there is to it, but they have it so packed with details and like clutter, good clutter, that it feels claustrophobic at the same time.
Yeah. Like even when you're in the biggest room there, which is the theater room, it still feels claustrophobic. And they really make that go extremely well. Probably the ending is the weakest point for me.
Yeah, the finale's not.
Yeah.
Because they build up. I didn't notice it on my first run through, but we caught it on Unmasking the Horror. They there was like this creation that they were building. I forget what they call it off the top of my head. I'm sorry, but like this certain human puppet. It had this like extremely long neck, and they were building up to that's what it's going to be. And at the end, it's kind of like a 3-foot puppet with a really long neck. It's just hanging up there. It's like,
yeah,
okay.
And I think that's what would probably ever prevent Puppet from moving up. It might hit its ceiling. You're like I said, it could be a number 3. Very well could be a number 3. I think it has a definite ceiling to it, and it just won't be able to go higher than that.
My top 2 are like probably fully cemented, and the third one itself is going to be very hard to pass. But yeah, I'll call it ceiling borderline 3.
Yeah, exactly. With that, but that's Puppet Theater for us. So, what's your number 4?
Oh, my number 4. Hey man, it hung stronger than it did for you, and that's The Bride of Frankenstein Lives.
Yeah.
Listen, I wasn't as excited, obviously, doing it as I was the new houses. It's nature. It's something I've experienced. I want to see the unknown more. But coming out of it, I was like, I mean, that house is still fucking amazing.
Yeah.
I don't know how much more we can say about it that we haven't already talked about for the past year, so I won't spend too much time on it. They didn't really add much, and honestly, kind of missed some things. There's a few boo holes that they had like fully like boarded up, and then we did not have the bungee scare. I don't know if that's gone. I haven't heard of anyone that's seen it yet. I assume it will be back at some point this year, if it's not already happening. But I didn't see it. It's just an amazing house. It tells an amazing story. It follows that story so well, and the character design, the finale's improved. It's a great house, and I think any other year this is top 2 for sure.
Yeah,
in a lot of years, number 1. So having it at 4 is kind of insane, but that's where it fits right now.
Yeah, I agree.
And also, I had it at 9 on my hype list. Again, only because I had seen it previously.
Yeah, and I agree with that too. And like, those are all fair points. And like I said, this is a really tough list this year for me. Setting that, it really hurt me putting Bride down there. But I guess just my run with you through Bride, it wasn't, like I said, as good as my average runs for the other houses. So
that's fair. That's completely fair.
I do want to go through Bride again because it looks like it will consistently have short lines, and it's kind of like in a really good area with some other houses that we're probably about to talk about.
Yep.
Like its neighbor, the house that I had no idea that I would be a complete stand for, and I think I owe a lot of this to Unmasking the Horror for me liking this house.
You were nerding out. You loved that. You loved going through there.
I don't know why I did. It was so great. Chainsaw. Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This is a really freaking good house. Everything that you said, I don't really want to spend that much time on it, but the amount of detail that is in this house blows my mind. We went on those, like I said, 6 tours of Unmasking the Horror. This house had so much fucking detail in it. It was really done there. It seemed like this was an IP that they were really excited to work with, and they really, really, really made a fantastic house there. And this is coming from someone who is not a fan of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I absolutely love this house. I love how all the characters are like that. I love that it does not take itself seriously. I love that you hear Deep in the Heart of Texas playing in the house and Inagata Davida playing in the house too. I think that's really fun. Really adds another element to it. And just all the little bits in this house just all add up. Every little thing in this house adds up to be one big thing, because there really isn't I would say a big thing in this house except the facade. The facade, I think, is like the biggest thing in this house, but there's really nothing that it really leads up to. But it's just the sum is definitely greater than the parts. The whole is definitely greater than the sum of its parts for this house for me. And I like I said, I don't want to talk much more about this, but Texas Chainsaw Massacre right now, it's in at number 3. Could it definitely slide down with the other ones? Absolutely. But right now it's in at that 3 spot, because the top 2, it's going to be pretty damn hard to unseat either one of them.
Nico, we closed out night 2 with Texas Chainsaw Massacre. We did so with a friend. You spent that time pointing out all the details you were so excited to learn about earlier in the day. I've never seen you geek out at HHN like this.
Aw. Well,
I was proud.
You experienced a rare thing with that, so.
Oh, maybe not, because I'm going to bring something like that up at probably your number 1 house, but we'll get there.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, you're right.
So my number 3 house is the first house I did this year. That's Case Files Unearthed, Legendary Truth.
Nice.
Oh man, they they broke the Shrek house curse. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
God damn, what a house! I keep on saying what a house because it's so good. The story, one, pretty easy to follow. You might not get every detail of the whole searching for the totems and what it does at the end, but it's very easy to follow the premise of what's happening, right? The sets look great. It transports you to New York, the way it tells the story, giving you the dates and the timestamps going into the different rooms. The monster design is great. Boris Schuster's just kind of a fun guy to follow too,
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
You don't go into Horror Nights a lot following this standard detective who's shooting his gun and shit, but like a horror noir kind of house is not something we get, and seeing it was so cool. The Kitty Cat Club, getting to walk to the Kitty Cat Club.
Yeah, finally we all get to walk into it for the first time. Because you walk by that all the time on that little street, and now we finally get to walk into it.
And I think everyone kind of knew that the base of that was, not everyone, but a lot of people knew that you were starting at Boris Schuster's apartment, where you'd see, I think it apartment, I guess. Anyway, the building where his window is. You're starting there, then you're going underground across to the Kitty Cat Club. But you're actually doing that and then going all the way, closing out the house, the finale scene being in the attic of the Kitty Cat Club. So you go up, down, across, and all the way back up again. I think they did a really good job of that. And kind of like how I didn't know why Puppet Theater couldn't fully pass a barrier for me. I don't know why this is so good. I mean, I do know about the details, and then the story is exciting, and getting to actually see Boris Schuster for the first time. But it has this huge factor where it just resonates with me. And I can't fully pinpoint why, but it does. Got it to number 3. And that's only because the next 2 houses on my list are they're good. They're good. We'll put it that way for now.
Yeah. So let's keep talking about it, because this is my number 2. Yeah.
I thought this was your number 1, my friend.
No, this is number 2. It's very, very, very close, but this is my number 2. for someone who has no idea what Legendary Truth is, I now want to know everything about Legendary Truth. That's how good this house is. It is absolutely fantastic. It is something so unique and something you would never expect to have at a mainstream event like this. And it seems like they were allowed to take a really big chance with this house, because this is unlike any other house this year at Horror Nights. This is completely in a league of its own.
Mhm.
It is so well done, and the story brings you through so well through. And surprisingly, it's not hindered. It's not hindered by vinyl whatsoever. Boris Schuster has his face mask actually works with his costume for some reason. No idea how like that works in here, but as you're just walking along through this and just going through and going into the Kitty Cat Club and seeing that bright neon sign as you turn the corner and having just everything all together in this one house just shows that they really took a really big chance and they succeeded on all fronts. I don't have any issue with this house whatsoever. I'm trying to think of like what's like a flaw that I could have. Maybe like not enough scares, but it's way they make up for that fact in completely different ways. And Legendary Truth, the truth is out there. It's great. That's the Legendary Truth. That Case Files is absolutely fantastic.
Well, Nico, to continue the trend of my top 3 being the same on my hype list as they were currently in my heart. Wow, let me start this off with the top 2 houses I'm about to say are at the very least both top 15 all time, probably top 10 all time, and very possible. So it's very hard to put either of these at number 2, but somehow it's clear at the same time.
Oh my God.
Number 2 for me is
Holy
HHN
shit.
Icons.
Wow.
Yeah. The way I put this house is tasteful fan service. It's not shoving it down your throat.
Mm-hmm.
It's not saying, looky here, look what this is. You know this, so you enjoy it. Which, I mean, I'm sounding like I'm knocking that, but I'm a sucker for that too. But this was done so right. It feels, how do I put it? It's not really even a story, It is, at the end of the day, kind of a montage. You're going through experiencing the different, basically the best of each icon. Usually they're kills. But the way they fit them all in, and the sets, and the atmosphere, and the way that they come out, the way they come out of the boo holes, the way the scares are, the facade is so impressive. Fear on his stilts looks fucking badass.
Oh yeah,
coming down at you. I love like you Usher's scene at the Universal Palace Theater. How you see him hung up in the rafters beforehand too. When Albert Kane, the caretaker scene, phenomenal. And that's just kind of how I'm going to break this house down. Is every scene, it's great. I love it. It's the storyteller, like redemption story. Like she's actually like a shape-shifting demon. And that is so cool. And her scare after you see her transform is great. It's the perfect way to do fan service. Perfect way to do an anniversary style house. And that rotating throne at the end is such a good idea. My group, we had 3 massive caretaker fans. When we walked out into that room, the throne room, and caretaker was on the throne, it was a very audible cheer. And they ham it up there on the throne too. I love it.
Yeah.
I got on my second run, I got Jack, and he really goes in.
Yeah, I had Jack on my run. Jack's great up there.
And this is one of those situations where it's harder to describe things you like, or things that you love, the more you love something, the harder it is to like say why and describe why. It's a feeling. And it's a beautiful house, but it's also the feeling it gives me. And seeing all the icons represented this well makes me a very, very happy guy.
Yeah, that is such a great review of that, and I'm really glad to hear your perspective of that house because I've heard nothing but high praise from that, and it's good to hear from someone who has wanting to do that. So, you know what, Duff, I'll let you kick it off. We should just go ahead and talk about our consensus number one, at least between you and me.
Yes. Nico, this house, from the facade, both the facades, the outdoor and the indoor, the outdoor one just draws you in so well with those pumpkins. So of course we're talking about Wicked Growth, duh.
Oh,
yeah, man. This house is something special. It is. I can already tell it's contender for top house of all time for me. I believe I said, and you agreed, or you agreed as much as you could, that it felt like if you took Scarecrow, Graveyard Games, that had a baby. That baby ended up being the epitome of Halloween, and then also just throw some witches in for fun too.
Yeah, exactly. And a goblin there, here and there.
Yeah, goblin. I mean, I guess those are both things about Halloween too, so we didn't even need to like pick those out. But yeah, there's also it's Easter eggs. It's the feeling it gives you, the scares, the sets. It's I mean, I'm speechless. I'm actually speechless.
Yeah, while you collect some thoughts, I'll go ahead and bring up some stuff. There are so many different things in this house. They crammed everything that they could in here. They threw everything at you. They went balls to the wall. It was absolutely phenomenal. I never thought like I could experience a house this good. Right now, it is not only is it my number one of this year. I've only been through 20 of these houses. This is number one. Or right now, for that, it is absolutely fantastic. The covered bridge scene, which is completely unnecessary. You don't need
it's showing off your effects for fun. It's showing off what you can do that looks badass for fun.
It's insane how good that is. And like you don't expect you turn it and you're like, oh, I'm not expecting this, and then you're like, oh, another you get another like light scare after that. You get so much in this house, and at the end you see it and it all builds up to the one, the only, the Pumpkin Lord, and we all must bow before the Pumpkin Lord so we can experience a nice Halloween. It is so good.
That sequence, Nico, where you hit the bridge.
Yeah.
It feels like a bridge you are walking over. Mm-hmm. You turn the corner and get smacked by that pumpkin head puppet.
Yeah.
I mean,
the pumpkin head puppet. Oh my God. That's what a year for puppets, by the way.
It has something that literally feels like a direct reference to Scarecrow as well. A great pinball hallway, and just the way it's laid out and the way they ending with an overhead scare with the arm coming down.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not just like an arm coming down, like in Yeti where it was just kind of the arm. He's the scare actor is actually just stuffed up there. So the arm comes down, you look up and you see the eyes glaring back at you of the scare actor. It has the most scares this year. The house has the most details and just the atmosphere it creates. I want to go back to when I said the outdoor facade draws you in. The indoor one places you in the atmosphere that you're at. And while it's doing that, it has a fake fence that a scare actor busts through on your left. So it scares the shit out of you right off rip too.
Mm-hmm.
Man, it has Easter eggs, like props from Slaughter Cinema. It has Beast Baby from Cult of the Beast Baby in a cage, in the witch's room. Also in the witch's room, it has the girl coming out of the pumpkin from Twisted Tradition. It has Nathaniel Crow, like officially. We were told on our I'm Asking the Horror Tour, Nathaniel Crow is in this house. If you don't know anything about Nathaniel Crow, he was designed to be an icon. Never actually came to the event. Been something people have wanted ever since we've heard about it. And there's a scene where this guy is being eaten by crows, and it's confirmed that he is Nathaniel Crow. So they made him canon. It just has so many good effects, so many Easter eggs, and hits the vibe of Halloween in a haunt so perfectly. So perfectly.
It is like it's Halloween the house. It's everything, like it's all the imagery we love in it. I forget, I saw this on Twitter, and if you're the one who tweeted this out, this all this credit goes to you, and you can tag me and be like, I was the one who said it. But it was like, the only way this could be more Halloween is like if you could actually trick or treat through the house. And wouldn't that be great? Like if like you got like pumpkin seeds dropped at you.
I would pay
like,
so much money if
Yeah.
like one day they let you in and you trick or treated through this house.
Just do a trick or treat through that. Oh my God, that would be the best thing in the world. Like
what would Pumpkin Lord give you?
Pumpkin Lord would probably give you like roasted pumpkin seeds. I
But
can see that.
like a whole king size bag too, you know?
Yeah, he's definitely a full bars, whole bag kind of guy. The witch would probably give you some sort of what would she? It should probably like a popcorn ball. I could definitely see from her with that.
Yeah.
The fence people give out like bite size, like the 100 grands and the crackle through the fences, and the pumpkin head that comes out at you leaves his porch light off and doesn't want you to come and trick or treat at their door. So
don't cross my bridge, motherfucker.
Yeah, don't do it. I'm gonna yell at you.
Yeah, I mean it's gonna battle for number one all time for me, and I get the sense it's gonna finish there as my all-time number one. I just have that feeling it will. Obviously, we got a lot of weeks left to go of me going through this house before I fully decide that. And I'm not going to place it anywhere in my all-time list yet. Just like any of these houses, it's too early. It takes more runs. And it usually even takes a couple of years for things to settle for me. So it'll be a while before I fully know. But I feel like at the end of the year, I'm going to be saying this is my favorite house of all time. Because I get so excited just to talk about this house. Every time I'm about to walk into this house, I am giddy. Like legitimately giddy. So, yeah, I don't know what else I can say. I kind of want to like get this house tattooed all over my body. I want my life to be about Wicked Gross. I don't want it to be my personality. I want it to be me. I am Pumpkin Lord.
Oh, it's so great here. Duff, I have a little bit of breaking news regarding HHN.
What?
That I just like. I just looked down at my phone. And I for some reason got this notification. They have added more 2 a.m. dates.
Oh, I did see that. That's right. I forgot to put that in our show notes.
So I just saw that it came out 8 minutes ago for that. So I was like, oh, this is breaking there. So yeah, so every Friday and Saturday is now till 2 a.m. and Thursday, September 30th is also a 2 a.m. night, which is good news for me for what we're talking about.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah. That'll work out well.
So with that, you now have an extra hour on those 2 weekends to go enjoy Pumpkin Lord and all of the fantastic, but not only just Pumpkin Lord, but I mean, I'm someone who's still really new to this event. I think this is a really, really good year. And I feel like we're lucky to have a year that's this good. But is this year really that good? Or is this just me being like, I really liked Halloween Horror Nights. I didn't have it for a year. Now it's back. And now I think I have a higher opinion of everything. Or are things actually really that good this year?
this is probably the strongest house lineup I've ever seen.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. You heard it here first, folks. Wow.
So, yeah, no, I think this is legitimately a strong year. I don't think it has the strongest cohesive theme of any year by any means. But I think the houses, and probably once I get more time within the scare zones and shows, kind of just make it so strong. Like, such a good year. And also, like, there's cool things that I haven't seen yet, like the roaming Jack, who just comes
Oh,
and, like,
yeah.
he like pops up in a queue and starts talking shit to guests. Like, I haven't seen that yet at all anywhere. And he just roams around the park, and there's things like that that I still need to experience. A whole show that I need to experience. Nightmare Fuel.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a very, very, very strong year, and I'm excited that we've only experienced just one weekend and we got a lot to go.
Oh, yeah. We definitely have a lot to go. So even though it was just the two of us, we've crossed over the 2-hour mark
I'm not surprised.
on
If
this.
it was all three, we would have crossed 3 hours for sure.
Oh, 100%.
Can't wait to edit this.
Yeah.
All right. Well, since that's happened, you've listened for 2 hours. Let's wrap it up here. We're going to be back talking about all this every week. Now you can go check out our YouTube HHN365 and see videos of us talking about this. And I think we're going to do a lot of cool segments, whether it's something as simple as talking about food or getting kind of comparisons of scare zones day and night, stuff like that. We're going to have cool segments. We're going to have occasional vlog style videos. We're going to see what works out. But regardless, we're also going to be moving into video content. And I'm very excited for that. The podcast is still here weekly, of course. We're not abandoning this by any means. Instagram, Twitter at HHN365. I try to stay pretty active on Instagram with the stories throughout the weekend. So if you kind of want to keep up with what we're doing throughout the event, that's a good place. And of course, voicemails. I would love to hear what you guys thought about the event. I mean, I've heard some pretty good opinions, and I'd love to hear you say them directly to me. And that's 407-906-3405. We'd love to hear it and play them on the show and maybe talk about it as well. Well, from unfortunately just me and Nico this time, hopefully for the only time that's going to happen, we're excited.
Yeah, we're
excited
super
to continue on with HHN 30.
Yeah.
And as if you couldn't tell how giddy we were. But we will be back next week, and we will see you in the streets.